So I've had a couple students ask me about best practices and study habits or help with organizing yourself in the course and how to do the assignments. So the textbook is considered optional. However, if you are not using the textbook, that's the equivalent of trying to put together a piece of furniture or a new appliance without the manual. So if you are not using the textbook, there are some free options at openstacks.com. That's where this book comes from. And you're going to have to do more legwork because it will not match up with the sections in the syllabus and in Blackboard. So one of the topics we're learning this week is about slope. So I'm just going to open that up so that I can show you how to go through a reading. Okay, so we're going to go to 4.4, understanding slope of a line. When you are looking in the textbook, you are not just reading useless words. Basically, you're reading and you're taking notes on all formulas, variables, and concepts. So anything that's bold, you want to have written down. Anything that's a formula, you want to have written down. So when you see M equals rise over run, that needs to go into your notebook. And that's to find the slope of a line on its graph. So M would stand for slope. You're going to see some examples like be prepared. You can actually click on these, they're interactive. And then they have lots of great examples. So what are we doing when we're actually doing the readings? We're trying to understand the examples. So anything that's bold, you're going to copy down as a part of that process because you're going to define everything you need. And then you're going to be looking at the examples that are given and trying to see if you can follow along with them. If you cannot follow along with the example, then you need to get help immediately. You need to post a question, you need to email me, you need to get help. Because if you're not understanding the examples and the reading after you've copied down the formulas, after you've copied down any variables, after you've copied down any keywords, then you need some extra explaining to be done. And I can usually point you there pretty quickly. So when we're completing the reading, you should never just be reading. You should be actively taking notes so that you can remember the things in the reading. Now, once you get to the homework, most of you are very familiar with the Help Me Solve This tool as well as the Ask My Instructor tool. But many of you are reaching out to me for help in preparing for the test. So if you notice, you only have 2 tries on each test. However, I did create a study guide for you. And so when we're looking at the study guide, if you see these numbers after you've taken the test or the quiz, you can always click on the question. And this is the location in the study plan. So I know on the test you can't go back and go to question help. It doesn't really give you anything to do here. What you can do is go from here and go back into the study plan. So how do you get to the study plan? Well, when you're working in the main menu, you're going to go to study plan. If the number was 10.4, that's chapter 10, and I go to all chapters. And I'm going to go to chapter 10, section 4, and then you pick the number of the question. Once you're in the study plan, it's going to launch and you're going to have access to the help tools. So once you're here, Help Me Solve This and View an Example is here. So when you take the practice test, the benefit of taking the practice test and not just your test attempt is that you can view these little study plan numbers in the top left. If you're not sure what you did wrong, you can go into the study plan by going to all chapters. Again, that's really important. You make sure you click all chapters. And then you're going to the chapter. The first number is a chapter. The second number is a section. The third one is the question. So that's how you prepare to take your test. So that's my suggestions to you. Watch the lecture videos and everything else, but make sure you're actively taking notes on the textbook. If you don't have the textbook, you can definitely use the OpenStax algebra one, the first book, but you are going to have to dig for what you are learning in that book because it's not going to be correlated to what's actually in the class in the order that we're going in. And then take your practice test attempt and go back in the study plan. If you've missed something on the test, go back and practice it before you use an actual test attempt.